Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Martinez. Today's project is going to be a monochromatic drawing. Now, to do this monochromatic drawing in Google Drawings, you're going to need to know what monochromatic is. So you see an example on screen. This is actually a painting by Pablo Picasso, and monochromatic means that you are using one color and different values of that color. So the majority of this painting is blues. So we see dark blues, we see light blues, we see all different values of blues and kind of all the mix of the middle blues, okay? Let's go ahead and look at a second painting. This painting is also by Pablo Picasso. This one's a lot smaller to look at, but this painting is called Guernica. And in this painting, his base color is black and all the different gray tones. And like I said, it's the majority of the painting. So there's a little bit of blue in this, but the majority of the painting is black, grays, and some really, really pale grays, okay? So remember, monochromatic means that you are using mostly one color. So the majority of your painting is all one color and different values of that color. Let's go ahead and go back to Google Drawing. And I had these pictures in there so I can delete them. So now I've got my Google Drawing space opened. I'm going to double click on title and I'm going to write my full name, so Mrs. Martinez, and then I'm going to write the name of the project. Today's project is a monochromatic cityscape. So you may have heard of a landscape, and a landscape is outside, the view outside, right? We're going to make a cityscape. Just like our school is downtown, we are going to make all of the buildings in our cityscape. So we're going to make the sky and all the buildings that we see in the skyline. So to make that in our Google Drawings, we're going to need to use the shapes, and we might use the lines. We will definitely use the black arrow, our select tool. And remember, if we make any mistakes, we can use this arrow, click undo. Okay, I'm going to start with shapes, and I'm going to use the rectangle shape for making all my buildings. I can get creative later and add some different tops with some of the other shapes, but for now I'm going to start making my buildings just using this rectangle tool. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to left click and drag until I've got a shape that looks like a building, and I'm going to leave it. Now I want to change my color, but I don't need to do that right now. I guess for right now, I'll change it to transparent and leave that black outline. Okay, now I'm going to just keep doing that until my cityscape fills up the entire width of my paper. So let me click back on that shape, and I'm going to left click and drag, and when it's the size I want it, I'll release my left click. I'm going to change that to transparent, and I'm going to keep doing that. Click my shape, my rectangle. I'm going to make one that's a little bit overlapping, left click and dragged, and I release that. I'm just going to keep going and keep making my shapes. Maybe I want a really tall and skinny building, and I'll do that twice because I like the shape of it. So your buildings can be any shape, or any width, any height. I'm leaving some room at the top because I want to leave room for my sky. So I'm going to put a color up here eventually. Where's my shape tool? I lost it. There it goes. I'm going to keep making my shapes. There's one more building. So I really don't have that many buildings. It looks like I'm going to end up with about 6. So we'll all end up with around the same amount of buildings. You don't want too little and you don't want too many. So you can absolutely make more buildings than this. They don't have to be as wide as this. I want you to have fun with this project. Don't do less than 6 buildings though. You want at least 6 buildings. So now I've got my buildings on here. And when I make, now I get to add all the fun details. Before I do that though, I need to pick one color, because remember this is a monochromatic, one color, and that's the color I'm going to put all my buildings. So I'll click on my first building. I'm going to go up to this fill color. And remember, I clicked on it by making sure that selection tool and clicked right on it. I'll go to my fill color, and I think I'm going to pick purple. So I'm going to save the darkest purple for the sky. Now I'm going to just start picking other purples to change my building's colors. And I don't want to get too crazy because I know that I'm going to add details on top of my buildings, and they need to be purple as well. So I've got different values of my purple. And let's make that one the same color. So I'm choosing all of these different purples, light purple, dark purple, and all the purples in between that light and dark. And there's my last purple. Now I'm going to make this a little bigger. So all I did was click on it and then left click and drag. I want my buildings to overlap a little. I don't want them to show any white space in there. So if you see any white space, you can just go in and do exactly what I did, which was left click and drag, and it moved my buildings a little. So now I have some buildings overlapping, which I think looks pretty cool. Some buildings look like they're on top, some are a little bit behind, and I think that's a pretty cool effect that I made there. So now I'm going to add the sky, and to do that, I'm going to go back to my rectangle tool. I'm going to left click and drag to take up the entire part of my digital drawing screen here. And I'm going to change this color to that dark purple I talked about, but it just covered all my buildings, so I better fix that. Now I'm going to go, it's still selected, I'm going to go to Arrange, Order, and Send to Back. Not send backward, send to back. That's really important. When I did that, it pushed that new shape all the way to the back and brought everything else to the front. It also showed me a couple places that I might need to fix. So if I wanted to fix that line there, I could make this building a little bigger. That's up to me and how I want to move my buildings around a little bit. I'm going to click off to the side so I can see what's happening and what everything looks like. One effect I want to do is I want to make sure that my buildings are not outlined in black. You can see it really good on this light color one. So I'm going to get rid of all the outlines in one move. So I'm going to left click with my select tool on the outside of my drawing page, left click, drag, so it covers almost the whole page, and release. And what that did was that selected all my buildings and my background. Right now that border color is black. I'm going to select it and then click transparent, and that took away all those black outlines. I'll click on the left hand side, and here's what I ended up with. I do see those lines right there. That's my background, and it kind of bothers me. So I'm going to click on my shape and just bring my left click and drag to make them just a little bit bigger. Left click and drag, and do the same right here, because I don't want to see any background between my buildings. So now I've got my buildings made here, and now is the fun part. Now the fun part, all my hard work, all the foundation's done, and now I get to add all these details to my monochromatic building. So remember when we first looked at monochromatic and I said that most of your painting is going to be one color and its values, most of it. So if I want to use a little bit of black and a little bit of white in here to add details, I can do that. I'm going to try and keep it mostly purple, but I can absolutely add some details here and there. So first I'm going to go in, and since my sky is dark, I want to make my sky a night sky. You do not need to do that. But I'm going to put some little itty bitty teeny tiny circles, so small you can't even see them, and I'm going to turn them white and click off to the side. So these little teeny tiny circles, and I'm just going to put a few in there, and I'm going to make them white, and I'm going to keep doing that, and that's going to take me a little bit of time here, right? Now my white should stay. I should just be able to go in and put my shapes in. So you see those are really tiny circles. I'm going to keep them like that because I like the effect that it gives me. and it makes me think of all the tiny little stars in the sky at night. So I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm going to fill it up a little bit, and then we will go back in. I'll start adding some details to my buildings so you can see that, and I can always go back in and add some more stars when I'm ready to do that. Remember, if you have questions or if I'm going too fast, I'm confusing you, or you need to watch this again, it's the best thing about a video is that you can pause it, you can rewind it, you can watch it more than once. It's here for you when you need it. So if you're confused, use this video as your tool to make sure that you can get this project done the way that you'd like to. I don't want to put too many stars in because remember, since this is a monochromatic drawing, I want to make sure that most of my painting is different values of purple because purple was the color I chose. You don't have to choose purple, you can choose any color. So if you choose black, your different values would be grays and whites. And if you chose pink or if you chose red, your values would be different reds and pinks. If you chose blue, it would be dark blues and light blues, and on and on and on, depending on the color you choose. Okay, so I'm gonna leave my starry background just like that. Again, if I wanna add more, I can go in and add more in a bit. Now I'm gonna start adding some shapes in, different shapes for different parts of my buildings. So first I'm gonna click on this shape and I'm gonna draw it by left clicking and dragging. And this shape is gonna become my door, but this isn't how I want my door to look. I need to move my shape around. So I'm gonna move my mouse until I get on this circle and it gives me that cursor shape. I'm gonna left click and drag, I'm still dragging, and then release when the shape is in the place I want it. Now I can left click and move it down, so I'm dragging, and there's my door, the start of one door, okay? Now I can add different things to it, or I can keep this very simple. I can do what I want here because this is my monochromatic cityscape, right? So I'm just gonna add some basic shapes to some of my buildings. Now I wanna add a bunch of windows, but I want them all the same size. So I drew this rectangle. I'm going to go up to copy and then paste. And then I'm going to keep pasting. You can see it's pasting my shape. And I'm going to keep going a few more times. Now my windows will all be the same size and I can left click and drag to move them where I want them. So now I'm filling up my building with windows. I actually need some more windows, so I'm going to go back up to copy and paste 2 more times. And here's the start of this building. Now I need a different kind of shape for the top window. So I'll make this kind of shape. Okay. So that's the start of one building. I guess I should add a door to it too. Let's add a door. We'll just add a rectangle as a door down there. Okay. Now I haven't changed the color of any of these. I'll go back in and change the color when I'm ready to. But remember, as long as we've got our black select tool, I can always click on a shape and change that color to whatever I need it to be. Let's do my doors in black. And then my windows, I'm gonna put my windows in, I'm gonna put my windows in a light purple on this one. So the lightest purple I can pick, I'm gonna do my windows. Now remember, I could select all of these at once by holding down shift, clicking, hold down shift, click, hold down shift, click with shift, click with shift. So that selected all 6, and now I can change all 6 of the colors at once. They still have those black outlines, which it's my call if I decide to leave those or not. I prefer to not have the black outlines. So when I'm all done adding all the decorations, all the details to my buildings, I will go in and I will change, take away those black outlines. I'm going to change my shape colors as I am going along because it's a little bit easier to change it as you're working. Okay, my shapes on my buildings, I can get pretty creative with these, so they don't need to be any particular way. In fact, maybe that'll be the top of my building. Okay, so remember, you can have fun with this. I want you to have fun with this. Make this a little bit smaller, bring it over, and I'm going to copy and then paste. I'm going to do that 4 more times. 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I've got these windows. I'm going to put the same size up on top. See, whoops, remember I made a mistake. I moved the wrong shape. I can click that undo button and it takes my shape back to where it needs to be. So if you select the wrong shape, then you're going to end up messing up what you've already worked on. But no matter how many times you mess up, you can always click the undo button. So if you mess up 5 times in a row accidentally, you can click the undo button 5 times in a row, okay? Let me move this up. There we go. So now everything's balanced. I've got 2 of my buildings mostly done. I'm going to keep adding my shapes. Make my shapes a little bit bigger. Now, I don't want that to look like the top of a house. So I'm going to add a little bit more detail. I'm going to add another triangle even and just move it. Change the color. Okay, so now I've given this building a little bit more detail, so it doesn't just look like a rectangle with a triangle on top. Okay, let's see what other details I could add in. I like these diamond shapes, so let's see. Change that color to a darker purple. I think I chose the same purple, so let's choose lighter purple. And I'm going to copy and then paste. I'm going to do that a few times so that I can move all those shapes at once. Okay, and it looks like I may have made 1 too many, so I'm going to select that and delete. I'm going to bring that shape down and then move this shape. I guess I'll have to bring it down a little. Let's move it a little like this. And now I can add my door. So I'm going to keep going and finish up my monochromatic cityscape. Remember, to make this monochromatic, I need to use all of my different values. Okay, so I've added my shapes. I'm almost done. I brought this, I started the video again because I want to show you one way to add some more detail. We've been working with shapes, but you can also work with line. So if I click on line and I just left click, and now I've got a line. When I see this cursor, I can left click drag to move this, and I can do that a couple more times. So now I've got some different line details on my building. So you could also use these lines if you'd like. Just keep in mind that lines you can't, well, that's not true. You can actually change the colors. So, all right, so I've added just a few details on that building. I'm going to take away the black outline, but I need to be careful not to take those 3 lines away. So first I'm going to select my black arrow. I'm going to left click and drag. I'm going to drag and stop right before those lines I don't want to delete. And now I'll go to border color, click it, and click transparent. Now I can click off to the side. I've taken away all my black lines. So here's my monochromatic cityscape. I'm using mostly values of purple. I can go back in and I can add even more details. I would like to see more details on yours. You can have fun with line. You can have fun with putting shapes on top of shapes. Just have fun making this project. And make sure you don't forget to turn this into our Google Classroom. Have a great project.